I'm Jenna, I'm an alcoholic. I don't actually know where to start. Sure. I sit here and I think I said every year, and every year it gets more baffling, amazing, I don't really know what the word is, that I'm sitting here. I think I came into recovery at a very similar time to a whole bunch of other friends, and it's kind of like everyone was doing it, and like we all kind of made our 1 year milestones, and while we all saw the miracle in that, it kind of was something that we all did. Today there's 2 of us left still in recovery, out of that group of us. And as I go on, I see like how few people, make it to 2 years, make it to 3 years. They either go back out there, or, some of them come back, some of them don't, and some of them will never have the opportunity to, because jail substitution and death has become, without being too morbid, very real. For me in my recovery, I've experienced quite a lot of it due to this disease, and so I think I sometimes take my recovery for granted, and I sit in this chair and I kind of go, it's what we do, and I forget that not everyone has this privilege. I came from a relatively stable-ish home. When I was younger, my dad wasn't really around, but my mum was, and while they weren't perfect, I suppose they each did their best in their own way. I really didn't have any real traumatic childhood. We were looked after, our needs were all met. And I remember I often felt really scared or really sad, but I never knew that was different. I thought everyone felt like that. Going into high school, the same. I thought everyone felt like I did. In fact, I was always told that. If I ever voiced that I didn't quite feel happy or safe or whatever, I was told that was life. It's okay, just keep going, it's life. And but it was different. I used to put myself on a pedestal. I used to think I was better than everyone else. I remember going through high school, I was one of the few people who drank. I think I started drinking when about 14, and again, everyone was doing it. When I started drinking, there was a group of us. In hindsight, they all came from alcoholic families, which is why it was seen as normal. I remember my mom, as a teenager, saying to me, "Why can't you be a normal teenager and just go to the movies?" And I was like, "Mum, normal teenagers don't do that." But I would have nothing to do with any of the teenagers who did that. I always thought I was better, I was more fun, and I was living my life better than they were. It was really interesting actually. In the last, must have been in the last 2 years, in high school, so I was at one high school where everyone was doing it, it was all great. I made a real mess of that. I lied. I used to pretend I had boyfriends that I didn't have. I used to concoct stories that I just thought made me look cool, and that all obviously came to light. And I was caught and found out, and I played the victim, and I moved schools. And at my new school, not everyone was doing it, and by now we were a little bit older. I had quite a few friends that were out of school, but the girls in my new school were quite well-rounded, normal people. And it's been really interesting because lived my life from probably about 16 up until about 2 years ago, telling people what snobs they were, how stuck up they were, how judgmental they were, because I never really got on with any of them. And I actually went to a baby shower. It was one of my school friends, and it was incredible how I could have normal conversations with them and how I really get on with them today, because I am not horrendously drunk, hungover, trying to walk all over them to get it, because that's what we used to do, walk all over people to get what we wanted when we wanted. And it's quite amazing how, like, they're still quite similar to how they were at school, but we now get on so well, and there's, we're equals, and I don't have this whole, well, one, I'm not trashing my own life and expecting everyone to approve of it and jump on the bandwagon, but two, I also don't think I'm better than anyone else today. In fact, the friend whose baby shower it was, I remember it must have been in the last 2 years of my active addiction, her saying to me, I've been friends with her since I was about 4, and I remember her looking at me the one day going, what you're doing is not normal. Like, if I hadn't known you my whole life, we wouldn't be friends, I wouldn't hang out with you. And my response to that was never a stop and think. It was, I looked at her and I told her she was going to have a midlife crisis. She was wasting her 20s, and she was going to be so sorry one day, and she was just going to do all of this when she was older, and it was unacceptable. I'm very grateful that she's still stuck around, and I'm still friends with her today, and we can kind of, not laugh, it's not really funny, but we can kind of have some form of sense of humour about that conversation today, because it's changed so much. I don't think I need to go into detail about the train wreck that leads to a rock bottom. I think we all earn our seat in this room by our own journey of that. However, I was not an alcoholic who lost everything. I hit my rock bottom in a nice little beach house on the beach on the north coast. I had my car, somehow, I wanted to say miraculously, but it wasn't miraculously. My mum enabled me to keep my job. I had cycled money, and I was about to be caught, and my mum came up with 12,000 Rand at some point so that I could keep my job. If she didn't do that, I wouldn't have come to recover with my job. But I had no me, I had no Jenna left, I had no real friends. The friends that people used to tell me those people aren't real friends, and I used to be like, they are my family. They are like my siblings, I'm closer to them than my family, and it's quite amazing because, when I came into recovery, I remember sending a message out because I was so terrified I didn't go into treatment. I was so terrified that one day I'd want to go to the news, and I was so terrified that like someone wouldn't know and they'd happily take me on a bender. So I took that off the table, and I'd sent a message to quite a few of my friends just saying that this was my decision and I was going into recovery, and it was just kind of, I felt that kept me safe. But now I got distracted when I told that story. It's amazing because quite a few of those friends, there's a group of them in particular that I remember sending that message, and I got phone calls from them. The one literally screamed at me and told me that there's nothing wrong with me, don't have a drinking problem. My mom had my mum loves me in her own way, and saying I love you is not that way. And she screamed at me on the phone. She went, "Your mum has never told you she loved you. No wonder you drink." And it's quite amazing because I think since then, in 6 years, I've heard from her once. And those people were my blood. So yeah. I feel like I'm very all over the show. Anyway, so what happened was I lived with a fellow alcoholic who escalated slightly quicker than I did, and he ended up in treatment, and it was great because for about 6 months, probably about 3 months, I was a superhero who saved him, and I saved his life, and it was the first time I ever tried to stop drinking, and I was great because I did that, because I was being a really supportive friend. He came out of treatment, and we were obviously living together, and he had to get to meetings, and I started taking him to meetings, and I sat in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous as Jenna, the supporter, for 6 months. That part of my journey, if I ever need, I like to put reference points in my pocket of God, because when times get tough, I find it really hard to connect to God. And that is the one part of my journey that is very much a reference point for me. If God could orchestrate that and do that, excuse me, I will forever be looked after. Because, I think, based on my friend who told me there was something wrong with my behavior and how I reacted to her, Alcoholics Anonymous would never have been an option for me. And the preamble talks about attraction rather than promotion, and it was certainly that got me into recovery. It was, I remember hanging out with people in recovery, and for a while I thought they were a bit fake, because I didn't believe anyone could be happy like that. And slowly, something sunk in, that it wasn't fake, and it was quite real, and that people didn't all live how I had been living, which was in real misery. I went on what would be my final bender. I remember carefully selecting people to do that with, that would fund it, and that would go full tilt with me. I remember looking at certain people on my phone going, no, she'll want to go home by 10 o'clock, no, he's got no money, no, he'll fetch me, he'll pay for it, and definitely go all night. So that's how I made that selection for that day. And I left my house in Amstroti. I know we went to Belito, and I woke up the next day in Maritzburg, and I had to phone my son to come and fetch me. And I don't know what happened, but something happened that next day, when he said to me, "This is not okay, something sunk in." I remember on that Monday saying I wanted to go to a meeting, but I was going to wait till Friday to go to that meeting. I even remember saying to him, "Can I come to the meeting on Friday with you?" I don't know why I had to wait. It's the story of my life. Never do anything now. Anyway, I went to that meeting, and a guy was sharing, and he was sharing multiple years, and I'd kind of heard a story before, and I'd always thought, oh, shame, I never connected to it. He lived in a park, I think multiple times. He had lost everything. He was a real under-the-bridge junkie, really. And when I had previously heard a story that kept us apart, it made me different. I ever really think, well, that's why I don't have to go to meetings. I just didn't think I had to come to meetings. But that night, I guess through the journey of the 6 months before, something really sunk in with me, and I heard her share differently. I heard like his pain and the solution to his pain. I heard the behavioural stuff. I heard the relationship stuff with people. And yeah, I went home that night and I prayed. I don't know what I prayed to, but I remember I got on my knees and I begged for help. I'd had the privilege of, like I say, meeting the fellowship before, and I always get this bit, and I remember dropping my friend off at work, and as he had to close the car door, I didn't want to be questioned, I didn't want to be disqualified. I was terrified of being disqualified from this program. And I said, can I have your step workbook and your big book? He kind of looked at me and he was like, I think you need to phone someone. And he closed the door, and I think off he went going, what the fuck? And surprisingly, when I speak to him about that moment, he wasn't too what the fuck-ish. He was like, about time. But anyway. And yeah, I'd had the privilege of meeting women in this fellowship, and I had phone numbers, and I remember phoning someone, and again, being so terrified because I'd seen such a solution with people and such a different way of life. I was so terrified someone was going to disqualify me. And I remember all she said to me, her name was Kate, all she said to me was, do you want to get to a meeting? I'll meet you there at 3 o'clock. And I think I cried. I ugly cried my whole way through that meeting. I was terrified. It was actually an NA meeting. I didn't want to be an addict. I didn't know how I was going to tell my boss I was an addict. I didn't know how I was going to tell my parents I was an addict. I didn't know how I was going to tell anybody that actually, like, the gig's up, I've got a problem. Because I really believed I'd kept it a really good secret. My dad knew. My dad had actually phoned me somewhere along the way and gone, my friend's daughter has just committed suicide because she was into drugs and there was a financial issue, and yeah, you used to be able to pay for things and now you phone me every month for rent. I remember saying to him, Dad, do you know how much toilet paper, tampons and washing powder or something else is? Like, the cost of living's gone up. So no, I'm not into drugs. I don't think you know how much things cost. Anyway, so my dad knew. My mum's reaction, which it still is, she's kind of getting there, but was, I'm sorry, I know I'm at a, so yeah, she said to me, she said, okay, Jenna, well, as long as it doesn't cost you anything, and you don't hang around people who have done drugs. And then she followed it with, I think you're just bipolar. I think you need to go and look into medication. And by then I'd heard it all in the rooms, I'd heard if you sit at a doctor and tell them all about your mood swings and not about your substance abuse, of course you're going to be diagnosed with some form of issues. Maybe mention your drinking and how much substance you've been taking, and probably not. So, like I say, I was very blessed with my journey because I've had a very toxic relationship with my mum. In fact, this was the first thing I've ever done in my life that I had decided I didn't need my mum's approval. And to this day, she's still, like, I'll say I'm going to a wedding. I went to a wedding, I think, was my first year of recovery. And I said to her, a few of my old friends are going to be there. I don't know how I'm going to tell them I don't drink. And she went, oh, well, you sound like you're an alcoholic when you talk like that. So, yeah. But I suppose that's that's what I've had to do. Like, I've had to do this program for me and not have everyone else's validation. And it's probably the one and only thing I've consistently done for myself without needing other people's validation. And I guess that's a big reason of why I'm still here. Because I think I'm a bit of a fuck you alcoholic. You know, I'll do something for you and then you'll upset me and, well, fuck you, I'll show you and I'll drink. And in fact, that was the background narrative to my last binge that I went on. It was, my flatmate had upset me and I went, fuck you, I'll show you. Well, I showed him, didn't I? Anyway. I don't know how much, I don't know how long I'm meant to speak for. Okay. I don't know how to fit 6 years into the next 10 or 15 minutes. My first year, everything was new and everything was incredible, and my bar for being a functional adult was pretty low. So everything was incredible. I remember, and I think I remember it because it was like the day of one of my first year shares, I think. But I remember being so excited about a pair of windscreen wipers. Like, I had gone off to whatever the windscreen wiper shop, I don't know what shop it's called, but anyway, I'd gone off there all by myself. No one had to lecture me, bribe me, go on at me for weeks to go there. I'd gone there, I'd paid my 150 Rand for my own windscreen wipers. I'd walked out, I'd picked up my phone to phone my dad to tell him that I'd paid for them so he could pay me back. But I stopped. I didn't phone my dad to do that. And my pride, when like I got into my car, every time I got into my car and switched my windscreen wipers on, that like I'd done that by myself. I didn't need, you know, I had this idea that my parents had to pay for everything because they were parents and that's what parents did. My first year was all the small things like that. I can't go year by year, I don't know what happened my second year. I did, in my first few years of recovery, I also learned how to have real friendships. I think like many of us, I came in going, I'm not friends with women. They're judgmental, they're catty, they're backstabbing. I basically listed what I was to women. I've got my closest friendships today are all women. But I've learned how to have my first healthy friendships with men were members of this fellowship. My home group used to be on a Sunday night, and there were some gentlemen there, and I learned there what was appropriate. You know, I remember in active addiction, I used to like have these relationships with men that their girlfriends never liked, and I thought their girlfriends were really insecure. And today, funny enough, that's something that's actually come back recently, like this last week, that I've had not direct interactions, but I've had to have vague interactions with this woman who is convinced that I've slept with her husband, and I actually hadn't. But 6 years down the line, I look back at that and go, no wonder she thought that. Like, I played the victim of her for a long time. But no wonder she thought that. Like, that was so inappropriate to have a friendship like that. So, not only have I learned how to have relationships with females, but I've also learned how to have those appropriate ones with men. This last year in my recovery has definitely been another layer of the onion. I thought I understood what that was. I feel like I'm only learning it now. again, through a series of events that I can only leave to God, I ended up having to look for a new sponsor. And I really didn't want to, it was like my sponsor had died. It was awful. But anyway, just, God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. And I got a new sponsor, and our focus has really been on relationships in this last year. Actually started doing 12 steps in a different program. And they're all the same. It's all the same basis. It's just been a little bit of a different perspective, I guess. But I'd never have been able to be open to the work I'm doing now without these steps and without these meetings and without being part of this fellowship. I've learned how to have a practical relationship with God this year. I think somewhere along the way, do you have it? Sorry. I've learned how to have a practical relationship with God. I think at some point in my recovery, I went from having a really good relationship with God to I should know better. Somewhere along the way, I got this idea that because I had some sobriety, a couple of years of sobriety, that I should know better. And I stopped asking the hows. I remember that in early recovery. Someone said to me, don't ask why, ask how. And I became really ashamed to ask how, and to be honest, to be honest about. I remember someone telling me to hand over and thinking, how the fuck do I do that? I don't know how. And I went, oh yeah, I will, God will get me through it. But I didn't know how, and it's been amazing because in this last year and a bit, I've done that again, and I've got the gifts that I got in my first couple of years of recovery. I definitely hit a rock bottom in the last year and a bit. Again, and I guess it's that emotional sobriety. I don't know if I like to call it emotion. Anyway, whatever, behavior. And it's, I've started again. I've started back at square one, and it has been nothing short of incredible. During lockdown, I know a lot of people didn't like the online meetings. I'm super grateful for them. I still do some of them, although I find showing up to face-to-face meetings reminds me how a part of I am. And it's incredible because no matter how the faces change in the circle, always walk into a room and feel a part of, loved, understood, safe, all those things. I don't know why I'm getting so emotional. All those things that I never felt inactive. All those things, that's what I use drugs to try and feel, give someone next to me enough drugs, and I don't share my drugs, give them enough and they'll love me. I don't know where it's coming from. Anyway, I've had to reconnect to the fellowship, because again, I went through a stage of thinking, well, I don't need to do that. I've got my friends out of recovery. Today I can have normal friends. They didn't want anything to do with me in recovery or in active because I was incapable of leading that normal life. But today I do. I have some friends who are not in this fellowship, and they're healthy friendships. Instead of a 3-week relationship where I tried to act like the best housewife so that someone would fall in love with me and marry me, I brought myself, who can sometimes be very messy, into a relationship, and I was proposed to this year. I'm getting married this year. I proposed last year. I'm getting married this year in 2 months' time. Yeah, I've been accepted into a family in a healthy way. I think I used to impose myself into families, get into relationships, and because I was so desperate for this movie perfect thing, I just imposed myself, and I haven't done that. And now I have a relatively healthy relationship with 2 families. How that happens, I don't know. God, really. Yeah, I never thought I would get married. In fact, I remember a friend and I used to think we'd make it to 30. We couldn't see ourselves getting past that. Not 33. Yeah, and I'm certainly not. Today, I have the courage to bring myself into relationships, whether it's with my fiance or with my friends, and I don't have that incredible fear of rejection. I don't actually know what I was scared of. I was actually thinking about it this morning. I know I can't stop crying, and I don't know why. I'm sorry. I was actually thinking about it this morning. I remember at some point in high school, I did a church stint, a battle with religion, but I did an intensive church stint. I think I did a Bible study, youth group, church, every day, every week. Anyway, but I never got anything. I used to talk the biggest load of nonsense, talk the talk, but I never kind of understood anything or got anything. And I remember they did this thing where you could go up and get saved on a Friday night. I still don't understand it. But I remember doing it, and lots of people cried. I don't know why. And I remember crying. And I remember turning to someone and going, I'm so scared. And I cried some more, and I said, I'm terrified, I'm so scared. And I remember them eventually looking at me going, what are you scared of? And I had no idea. And that was kind of the story of my life. I was so terrified of everything, but I had no idea why. And my sponsors recently brought that up with me. I live my life today, sometimes terrified of pain, can't do that, what if I make the wrong decision and then I'm going to get pain? And it was a really beautiful moment, because my sponsor said, Jenna, why are you so scared of pain? And then what? That's one of her favourite things to do with me when I'm clapping in a knitter is, okay, and then what? Well, and then I'm going to grow, and then I'm just going to pass, and I'm going to be okay, however that looks. And she was like, okay, so why are you so scared of it? And it was such a game changer for me. I love that little and then what, because I can often get into a tiz and want to be doing recovery so perfectly, and if I don't, and then what, I'll be okay. As much as I've had to do this and cling to it because I am terrified of relapse, and I do believe it's a healthy fear, I've also let go of that idea that if I don't do recovery perfectly, I'm going to relapse and die, because there's no such thing as perfect recovery. It says it in our prayer, but we're not saints. We, as long as we, strive to grow along spiritual lines, we'll be okay. So I think I'm going to end it there. Thanks for letting me share.